I realized something yesterday. A good way to pick up Twitter followers is to have Elon Musk retweet you. So, Justin, you think I should do that more? Might be. It might be a good idea. I'm gonna. We got to get in touch with Elon to see how we can make this happen on a more routine basis. It's like unreal, actually. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Vince on a Wednesday. It is so good to have you with us, as always, the best audience anywhere. We've got a lot to get to today. I do want to get into the economic data about the country. We have found out something about the awful economy the Biden administration left us with. It was a massive cover-up just revealed this week. We will get into the details of what it all means and why there could be a brighter future ahead, thank God. Also, we'll talk about this with Steve Moore, the economist, and the guy who could fix all of that data. That's our in-house economist, EJ Antoni. He's not joining us today, but hopefully he's joining the administration soon. We'll talk about all of that. Also, we've got brand new footage out of that horrific stabbing in Charlotte, North Carolina, of Irina Zarutska, that Ukrainian refugee who was just trying to make a better life here in the United States before it was all taken from her by that vile career criminal. We've got updates on that story. I'll tell you all about it in a moment. We've got a lot to get to. Glad you're here as always. Before we move on, though, I want to thank the sponsors who make this show possible. Our thanks to Helix Sleep, which is great for not only supporting the show, but great for supporting a good night's sleep for me and anybody else who has a Helix mattress. You know, after an exhausting day, which happens occasionally, there's really nothing better than climbing into a bed that actually helps you recover. I used to wake up feeling stiff and groggy and wondering if I had even slept at all. And that all changed when I switched to a Helix mattress, Helix Sleep. You see, Helix makes high-quality mattresses that are customized to your sleep style. You just take a quick sleep quiz online, and then they match you with the mattress that fits you best. Whether you're a side sleeper, you run hot, you're dealing with back pain, Helix has a mattress that is designed for you. My mattress was delivered right to my door, and right from night one, I could immediately feel the difference. Allison and I love our Helix mattress. There's no more tossing and turning, no more waking up sore, just deep, comfortable sleep that actually leaves us rested. I mean, I didn't even realize how crappy my old mattress was until Helix arrived. Now it's something I look forward to every single night. And right now, Helix is offering 25% off site-wide. Just head to helixsleep.com/Vince. Claim your discount. That's helixsleep.com/Vince for 25% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/Vince. I'm already seeing some of the commentary here in the chat, and God bless you for it. I understand it entirely. Jally0508 pointing out, I can't watch that footage anymore. I'll have to listen, but step away. I totally respect you for that, Jally. Totally respect you. In fact, I got a call from my brother yesterday, my great brother, Anthony. He called me, and he said that, earlier this week when we were showing some of the early censored footage of Irina Zarutska's horrific death, that whole tragedy in Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, it took place on August 22nd of last year, but the video didn't come out until Friday. When I was showing the footage, he said, I just couldn't watch it. I just couldn't watch it. And I said, Anthony, I'm with you, brother. In fact, I don't know about you guys, but when you are on social media, you ever see a video coming along or a description of a video and you're like, I can't look at that. I'm not in the mood to see people die. I don't want to see someone's life extinguished before me. I know there are people out there who share these videos who are fine with it. They're interested by it. I know that exists. I'm not one of those. Not interested in snuff films. I'm not interested in observing the final moments of someone's life, especially as it ends in a horrible way. Not at all. But let me offer the following caveat, and I've been saying it all week, and I want to reiterate it now. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about coming into today's show, because we have new footage, is what will actually change our country for the better? What will change it for the better? And sometimes it does take staring at the bad thing in order to be inspired into fixing things for the better for our kids, for people like Irina, for our children who should not have to live in a nightmarish world. It takes adults being responsible, planting their feet, keeping their head up, and understanding what the stakes are. And on occasion, it does matter a great deal that we don't look away. Now, I'm not telling anybody in this audience what they have to do. You can do whatever you want with this. But I do think that it is worthwhile for us to dwell on this for a moment and to look at what we're dealing with. Now, I'm not going to show a fully uncensored video here. We are going to show a little bit of footage here on the video podcast that shows you with some censorship at the moment of the stabbing, but just complete clarity beyond that so you can see Irina's face, what she's dealing with, what she's going through. This video, some of the video that I'm about to share with you is video that I got to see for the first time while we were live on the air on the national radio show yesterday. It was producer Jim who saw it first, and he said, Vince, there's new angles here, new video footage that hasn't been released yet until now, and you need to see this. And I took a look, and I will admit to the utter rage that I felt about what I was consuming. And for those of you who were with me on the radio audience yesterday, you heard that reaction. I am very disheartened by everything about this, to include and especially the people who just did not react to it. One person, a man, a grown male, ran off. He just got up from his seat and he ran off, and they left this poor girl to die. This poor girl to die. Let me start with some of the video footage now, again, that I think is really important that we take a look at. This is, first and foremost, cut 4. This is the footage from immediately after she stabbed. You will not see any stabbing going on in this video, but this is immediately after the murderer, Brown, stabs her, and she looks up bewildered. This is the video that enraged me yesterday. She looks up bewildered, like her adrenaline is coursing through her. It's almost like she's not been stabbed in a way, and she's looking up horrified, bewildered, confused. Remember, she's got her headphones in. We know now she was texting her boyfriend, telling him that she would be home soon. And that never came. This is that moment right after she was stabbed, and the reaction she had, and pay attention especially to the reaction of the people around her on this train. Cut 4. Take a look. You can see here in the footage, she's just been stabbed. You can't even see blood yet. She's just looking up. She doesn't even know what's going on. Now she's leaning forward. She's crying. She's overwhelmed by emotion. One man has already stood up and walked away. The woman across from her now standing up to walk away. It looks like at least 2, maybe 3 men behind her not doing anything. Not doing anything. And I hesitate to say the word men. I'm just trying to be descriptive. But nothing manly about the reaction to that at all. In fact, there was a male sitting behind the woman who stands up and walks away, and he clearly observed every last element of this. You could see him. He's staring directly at where the attack took place. He saw the knife go into that woman's neck. He did nothing but stand up and flee. Just fled. He was gone. So completely enraging. And this poor girl was left to fight for herself. She would begin to bleed out pretty dramatically as a result of her injuries. I did watch this footage that you're about to see. I believe there are 3 strikes of the knife to her neck. And it wouldn't be until about 90 seconds later that there was one, and I will use this word, man, who does come to her aid. Let me show now. This is footage from the side, the same event. This footage will show the moment that Brown stabs her. And it blurs out the moment of impact, but beyond that, you do see the rest. Here is cut 5. This is, do I have this right, fellas? Cut 5? I want to make sure I've got this correct. Okay, good. This is the next angle. Take a look at this. That's the attack. They blur out the moment that she's attacked. She's struck, it looks like 3 times. He knocks her hat off as a final strike against her head. He walks to the door to try and exit the train. He's got blood dripping off of his hand. And then he ends up walking down to another door and finally gets off the train just moments later. Again, almost nobody on the train does anything about it. Now, here's the exception to this story. The one man who did something, and he would be joined by a couple of women who sort of would stand next to him and become more attentive to her needs during this absolute catastrophe. And take a look. Can we put the footage of this gentleman up on screen? He approaches her and begins to try and render aid. By this point, look, he's looking at her. She's crouched down in between the seats, and I'm telling you, this is a rough thing to see. There's a lot of blood. I just want to alert the audience here as we're watching this. He's pulling her out, and he begins to try to apply pressure to her neck to rescue her. And at some point, he takes his own shirt off to begin doing that. The women around him begin coming up to try and do what they can to attend to her, but so much of this is just helplessness at this point. You get the sense that he's not medically trained in any capacity. He's just a good man trying to act in a way that can come to this woman's rescue if it's even possible at all. And I just want to, first of all, say God bless that man for doing anything, for just being the one guy to try and respond to all of this. And I know 90 seconds is a lot of time. I get it. But I'm not going to take away at all that he's the guy who stepped up with empathy for her. His presence with her continues for a long time. He's not there for a mere moment. He's there for a very long time with her throughout this video. We only showed you a small portion, and I appreciate him. And I do want to emphasize one other element here. The media goes out of its way to try and foment racial division in everything that you and I consume, everything. They oppress videos like the one we just saw. They oppress the detail that murderer said that he got that white girl multiple times after he had stabbed her in the neck and she bled out to die. They're suppressing all of these things. They will pour accelerant onto hoaxes about things that they think involve a white perpetrator and a black victim. They'll over dramatize events. They'll even cast the George Floyd video as a racist event. Never mind the fact that all of the cops that were there with Derek Chauvin were of every race imaginable, trying to bring a guy who was clearly on drugs and resisting arrest into custody. They will lie to you in order to inflame racial tensions. I will not. I will tell you the truth about what we just saw in that video. And for those of you who are listening on the audio podcast, you need to know this. The man who responded to her was a black dude. A black dude who, again, his skin is irrelevant other than to disprove the basic point that the media is trying to constantly shove down our throats, that there is some division between us that's predicated on skin color. The guy who came to her aid was black. And God bless him. God bless him for that. I don't know if you feel like this, if you're a parent, fathers, if you're feeling this, mothers, if you're feeling this. One of my reactions this week has been just the utter horror to think about, what if this was my daughter? What does Irina's father feel about all of this? Trapped in Ukraine. What do Irina's family members think about all this? She was on the phone with her boyfriend. This is new information. It came to us in the last 24 hours. She was on the phone with her boyfriend. She was texting with him, telling him, I'm going to be home soon. She had just come off her shift at her pizza place. And when she didn't come home, he checked her location on her phone, and he went to that train station. And when he approached, as he was approaching, he was arriving to a crime scene. That's how he found out that his girlfriend had been murdered in cold blood. This whole thing is infuriating. As a father of a daughter, never in a million years would I want my daughter to be in that situation. How could you? Never in a million years. And then to see the video, the fact that nobody came to her aid. Nobody. Everyone around her let her die, except for one man who just tried to come. In the end, was really just comfort for her, but that's it. Everyone else around her let her die. It's beyond words. It is utterly beyond words. And he should have never been free. 14 times arrested. Released over and over and over. A magistrate judge whose family is in the business of releasing lunatic criminals and then making money off of it. She's involved in this too. Teresa Stokes, magistrate. It's all too crazy, and it all has to end. We have a fabulous vice president of the United States, and just before our program this morning, he posted the following to X. He posted an image of Irina Zarutska crying into her hands after being stabbed, and he wrote this. Daniel Penny prevented this from happening on a New York City subway. Instead of thanking him, many hated him for it. Daniel Penny. I should point out J.D. Vance is a United States Marine. That's him acknowledging another United States Marine, Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny stood up for a train that was about to be attacked by a violent, mentally ill person who was threatening violence upon that train. Daniel Penny stopped him. But there was no Daniel Penny on this train in Charlotte. And J.D. Vance points out that the media demonized the good person, and that led to more good people being killed. The vice president is right about that. There are consequences to all of this, late consequences to all of this, but the Trump administration does not trust local prosecutors to handle this responsibly or anywhere near as responsibly as they need to. The Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, came out yesterday and ordered the United States Department of Justice to bring federal charges against this man, against the person who stabbed Irina Zarutska to death. And they do have a federal charge that applies here. It is an act causing death on a mass transportation system, so the feds can be involved. This is the U.S. attorney here, Russ Ferguson, describing, first and foremost, here's cut one, Irina Zarutska and what she was doing on that train on August 22nd.
Our hearts go out to Irina's family. They are suffering like any of us would be. It was a very touching call. Our hearts go out to them. She is a refugee. She literally came to the United States from a bomb shelter in Ukraine to escape the war, and she was going about her day. She was coming home from work on a light rail train, like all of us do all the time, and she was brutally murdered.
She was brutally murdered. Imagine escaping war-torn Ukraine, coming here, murdered in the United States. U.S. Attorney Russ Ferguson also says this, that that the options here, if Brown is convicted, and he surely will be, his sentence could either be life in prison or the death penalty. That's right, a federal death penalty offense here. Cut two. Look at this.
Now, DeCarlos Brown Jr., who we allege stabbed Irina Zarutska, is in state custody on first-degree murder charges. But I'm here today to announce that we're going to supplement those state charges with federal charges. These federal charges will go alongside the murder case in state court, and we hope that they will ensure justice for Irina, for her family, and for the whole Charlotte community. The charge we are bringing is in Title 18, which is the criminal code. It's Section 1992A7, which is the law that Congress passed really for this situation. It is an act of violence on a mass transportation system. It is a law that is there because acts like this affect the American way. It affects our daily life. It is random acts on a train that are the thoroughbred and how we get through our cities to work, to our places of education, to our families. It is our way of American life. Crime makes people stop taking that light rail. They give up those opportunities, and we are here to be sure that we can save our city and bring those opportunities back.
The death penalty. The death penalty. Did I miss it there? Did he say that, Justin? Making sure people understand that. Say that again. The maximum penalty for this federal crime, to be clear, is life in prison without parole or death penalty. That's what the U.S. Attorney said yesterday. It has to be the death penalty. That man has to be executed for what he did. If he's executed by the state after a court process, he will have been given more dignity than he gave Irina Zarutska. So yes, the death penalty is what needs to happen here. And the feds have that at their disposal. And God willing, we see it come to pass. The media are trying to turn this into something very stupid, and I'm reminded constantly that you can't have enough contempt for too many people in our legacy press. There was a question yesterday. A reporter suggested that this was, quote, political grandstanding to prosecute this guy with federal charges. The U.S. attorney, to his credit, Russ Ferguson, dunked on this, I think, pretty well. Take a look.
I don't see how you would see this case as political grandstanding. And if you do, I think you should have the conversation that we just had with Irina's family, because there's nothing political about that. This is a heinous crime, and we are going to remedy it. I don't know what the politics is here. If this was a political grandstand, there would be an opposite side to this. Is the opposite side, let's allow murders on our light rail? Is the opposite side, let's let people out of state prison so they can commit other crimes? There's no other side to this. There's no politics to this. This is a pure and simple federal case.
This is an invitation for Democrats to admit what they really want here. Go ahead. Oh, it's political grandstanding, meaning, so if we take the side of decency and law enforcement and prosecution and indictment and consequence for violating our laws, for killing a woman in cold blood on a train, if we take that side, are you telling me there's another political side? And the dirty little secret in America is, yes, there is. There is another political side. That the left knows that the consequences of their leniency towards criminals leads to more criminality. They know that. So that U.S. Attorney, Russ Ferguson's being very smart and clever, actually, here. Going, oh, wait a second. Are you saying that there's another side to this? What would the other side be? Well, we're living with the consequences of the other side. Democrats who run these cities have been running them into the ground. They have inflamed this kind of criminality. They are getting American citizens and Ukrainian refugees and all sorts of people that are here within our country killed by their disastrous and, I would say, demonic policies. So, yes, it turns out there is another side to this. Is this political grandstanding? Call it whatever you want. This is decency on display, as opposed to the other thing, indecency on display by the left. I've got a lot more to get to here. We've got some announcements from the President of the United States in terms of the crime crackdown. We'll get to that. Also, the president had some success in D.C., and he went to celebrate it last night at a D.C. restaurant. Here's the thing. Somehow the left found out that he was going to make this surprise visit to the restaurant, and then they went into it before he got there and went ballistic. Somebody's going to have to explain to me how this went down. More ahead on Vince. If you're living on credit cards just to cover groceries, gas, and bills, you know those interest rates can be brutal. Why keep paying 20% or more to the banks when you could call my friends at American Financing? They've got mortgage rates in the 5s. They're showing people every day how to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket and out of the hands of credit card companies. Right now, American Financing is helping homeowners save an average of $800 a month by using their home equity to wipe out high-interest debt. No upfront fees, no obligation, just a 10-minute call to a salary-based mortgage consultant. And here's the kicker. If you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, putting even more cash in your hands right away. Don't wait. Call American Financing now, 888-879-6460. That's 888-879-6460. AmericanFinancing.net/Vince. NMLS number 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5s start at 6.327% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 888-879-6460 for details about credit costs and terms. Thank you to American Financing for being a great sponsor of this program. All right. We've got the President of the United States has just cleaned up Washington, D.C., and thank God for that. I'm grateful that he's done that. And he last night went to celebrate this fact at a local restaurant. Now, I should point out, for those of you who are not from the D.C. area or don't know it super well, that the White House is just down the street from this restaurant. It's called Joe's Seafood Steak and Stone Crab. It's an awesome restaurant. I've only been there a couple of times, but every time I've been there, I've been awestruck by how cool it is. It's really nice, very upscale kind of steakhouse place. And the president last night went there, and he brought the Secretary of State with him. The Secretary of War was there, and the Vice President of the United States. And he arrived at the White House, arrived just outside the White House at the restaurant, and he was commenting immediately to the press just how much safer D.C. is now. Take a look. Cut 6. Here's the President of the United States.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. We wanted to take some of the members of the cabinet out to dinner to say, and here we are, we're standing right in the middle of D.C., which, as you know, about over the last year was a very unsafe place. Over the last 20 years, actually, it was very unsafe. And now it's got virtually no crime. We call it crime-free. We're going to be announcing another city that we're going to very shortly. We're working it out. The governor of a certain state would love us to be there, and the mayor of a certain city in that same state would love us to be there. We'll announce it probably tomorrow, and it's going to be something where we'll do like we did here. But this city, here I am, standing out in the middle of the street. I wouldn't have done this 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I certainly wouldn't have done it a year ago. This was one of the most unsafe cities in the country. Now it's as safe as there is in the country.
Okay, so this is interesting. There's quite a bit going on here. First and foremost, the President of the United States just announced that another city is set to receive help from his administration. Now, for those of you who are watching yesterday's or listening to yesterday's program, I mentioned that what I'd like to see happen next is Republican governors need to reach out to the White House and request all the support that they can get to tackle the crime in the blue cities within their states. So that would be places like Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, St. Louis, Missouri, Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Louisiana. These are all places that have Republican governors and Democrat cities with out-of-control crime problems. And so insofar as the president's going to get cooperation and collaboration from any of the nation's governors, one would think that it's the Republican governors who are going to step up to the plate and do that. And in fact, Reagan Reese, my White House correspondent, was at the White House yesterday and asked the president about this. Asked the press secretary about this, Caroline Leavitt. And she said, yes, the president stands ready to support Republican governors to stop crime in those blue cities. All right? So we've been all over this. And so it is great news. Now, I don't know what state he's talking about yet as of the time that I'm doing this show today. But he says, look, we're on the move. We've got another governor who's going to work with us. We're going to crack down on crime. This is fantastic news. I love this, and I want to see this keep going. So every single one of these blue cities, we got to get this crime under control. The president indicating that's going to happen. Inside of the restaurant in Joe's, the president greeted the crowd right inside the front door. Here's a cut 7, the president saying hello to everybody in a much safer D.C.
We have a safe city now.
Great job.
Imagine, we did it in 12 days, but now it's almost a month. We have a safe city. So that's good. Enjoy yourself. You won't be mugged going home, okay? Have a good time, everybody.
Brandon B.
You won't be mugged going home, the president tells all of the diners. Well, that's nice. That's a nice thing to hear from the president of the United States. But then as he moves his way into the dining room, he is, well, the word's not greeted. He's all of a sudden harangued by a bunch of out-of-control, emotionally incontinent, left-wing lunatics who somehow knew the president was making this surprise visit to the restaurant. Take a look here. Cut 8, left-wing lunatic protesters screaming that Trump is Hitler. And watch the president's reaction. He's not fazed at all by these idiots.
Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free D.C., free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free D.C., free
Look at him.
Palestine!
He's smiling.
Trump
They're
is the
goofballs.
Hitler of our time! Free D.C., free Palestine! Trump
You see the
is
hand gesture?
Hitler of our time!
Trump does one hand gesture. He just looks at them. He does one hand gesture. And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, no, he didn't raise his middle finger, although that would have been funny. He gestures to the side, just one finger flick, gestures to the side, like whisk them away. And then the Secret Service just cleared everybody out. They're like, all right, that's it. Time to go. Time to go. And they got rid of everybody. They got them out of the room. But here is the core question for me. How did these people know? How did these people know? Now, it's not a surprise that the president went to any restaurant. Not a surprise. In fact, earlier this week, he was asked by some member of the media, are you going to go to a restaurant now that D.C.'s safer? And the president indicated, yeah, that seems like a good idea, actually. So it wasn't a total surprise that he was going to a restaurant. But when yesterday, when it was announced that he was on the move, it was a surprise to the press. They didn't know where he was going. My suspicion when I saw that was, oh, he's probably going to some restaurant. I did have that thought yesterday. How would I have known it was going to be Joe's, though? Who told them? They were inside of the dining room. They had cleared all the way into the dining room right by the president's table. How did that happen? Who leaked that information? Now, I'm not going to arrive at a conclusion yet because I don't have all of the facts, but I will tell you some basics about presidential movement that we know. One, the people who are a part of the president's security detail, the Secret Service clearly would know. So that's the universe of people who would know. Two, local law enforcement is often tasked with shutting down streets for the president's movement. So that's another group of people who would know about this. Three, the restaurant themselves would presumably know because Secret Service would come in advance of the president's arrival to sweep the place in order to establish that it's safe for him to arrive. In fact, Secret Service agents watch the people who prepare the food for the president to make sure that everything is being handled appropriately. So who in the small universe of people who knew about the president's movement knew he was going there and then told the crazy left-wing lunatics? Might be good to get to the bottom of that before they ended up there. Yeah, and also some people point out, of course, that there would be a reservation involved. Like the White House would have to arrange in advance something to have the president there. So there's a universe of people who knew, and somebody alerted the craziest people in town. There's the president. Yeah, we have it up on screen, gesturing, get out, get out, get out. All right, save that, Justin. We're going to use that one again in the future. Coming into the show in just a moment, we'll be speaking with the great Steve Moore, the economist. We'll get his take on a bunch of economic news we just got this week. It is very important news. It affects the whole economy, and it might mean that some better days are ahead. We'll talk to Steve in just a moment. Before we get there, I want to thank our great sponsors. Beam's Dream Powder is just the best. It really is. You know, when it comes to the stuff that you and I believe in, that's hard work, self-reliance, showing up for the people who count on us. But a while back, I hit a wall. I was getting terrible sleep, and then I dragged myself through the next day on fumes. I knew I had to find something to break me out of that cycle. And that's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America. It's run by people who share our values, hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on each new day. And Dream is made up of a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, including reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. And here's the deal for you. Beam is giving you, right now, the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Vince Show and use the code Vince Show at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use that code Vince Show for up to 40% off. Our thanks to Beam for supporting the program. Also, our thanks to Jacked Up Fitness. You know, so many Americans are now prioritizing their wellness. Thank goodness. Boy, our country really needs it. And we're getting back in shape. Studies prove that strength training does so much more to help burn fat than cardio alone. And Don and his team over at Jacked Up Fitness, they specialize in getting you strong. I've been working with Don and the team for a couple of months now, and they know what they're doing. Their all-in-one home gyms are already best in class. I've got one at home. I love this thing, and I know you will too. They've got their all-new X Series, and that takes home fitness to the next level. The Power Rack Extreme Functional Trainer lets you do hundreds of exercises, essentially everything you would do at the gym, right from your spare room or garage. Do you want more? Well, the Power Rack Pro X features a fully upgraded cable crossover system with articulating pulley arms, and that gives you unlimited width combos. There's lots of gyms that don't have this gear, I'm telling you. You're going to hit every muscle group. And if you're new to this, no worries. They've got a free Get Jacked Up video program. Just press play and follow along. So no more excuses. Let's do this together. Go to getjackedup.com. Use that promo code Vince and save 10%. That's getjackedup.com. Jacked Up Fitness. Thank you to Jacked Up Fitness. The best. Great to have you guys with us. All right, let's dive into some economic data right now. I'm going to play some videos too, but we're going to bring in our great guest who's going to help me do it. Stephen Moore is the founder of Unleash Prosperity. Great organization. He's a Heritage Foundation fellow, a Wall Street Journal writer. He does it all. You've seen him everywhere, and now you see him here. Hello, Steve. It's great to have you with us today, sir.
Hey, Vince. Great to be with you. Thanks so much.
And man, you're on the move and everything. Look at this. Holy cow. You're a busy man. All right. I want to talk to you about the economic data we just got yesterday. Mm-hmm. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's been a total disaster. A lot of that the monthly data that's come out has just been impossible to rely on. So that's why Trump fired the last lady, Erica McIntyre, because the data was garbage. But we do get this big annual picture that was released yesterday. Once a year we get that. And it demonstrated to us that we did not have anywhere near as many jobs as the Biden administration was claiming. It was revised down by nearly 1 million jobs in the final year of the Biden administration. What are you seeing in that data? What does that tell us?
Well, there's two explanations for why these numbers were so horribly wrong, Vince. One explanation is that the people at the Bureau of Labor Statistics are just incompetent and they're not doing a good job of counting. Or the other explanation is that they're politically biased and that they intentionally, and I don't know what the answer is, but when you have numbers that are these faulty and where the errors are always in the same direction, there's something terribly wrong here. Now, Vince, here's the headline that a lot of the media isn't even reporting. Yes, they overestimated the number of jobs last year by 1 million jobs, but over the last 20 months, they overestimated from the original headline numbers, Vince, you ready for this? Almost 3 million added jobs to Biden that didn't exist. Now, that is an incredible error. It's like a blind man throwing darts at a dartboard. So we need to fix this process. Trump was right to get rid of the BLS director, and your friend and mine, E.J. Antoni, and somebody who I think is one of the exceptional economists in the country, is going to fix this. And he has got to be confirmed immediately, so we can get accurate numbers.
So I want people to see something to help support the argument that you're making about how wise EJ is on the data. Fellas, if we could pull up, let me see here. I'll center this on my screen so everybody can see it. EJ in February of this year, February 7th of this year, and I'm not going to pretend I can understand every word of his analysis. I don't. He's the economist. I'm not. But on February 7th of this year, he announced that based on all of the data he was seeing, that we were going to get dramatic downward revisions in the next annual benchmark report, meaning he knew in February the report that you and I are now talking about that was just released yesterday. This speaks very well of his ability to assess the data and to run this operation.
Yeah, he was the canary in the coal mine who was shouting out that these numbers are completely wrong, and he was right. Now, look. People are saying, oh, EJ is going to be politically biased and that kind. No, he is going to give us reliable and accurate numbers, something we haven't been getting for the last 5 years at BLS. And Vince, I want to make sure that your listeners understand something. This is hugely important that we get accurate numbers. The most important economic data point we get every month that really guides our public policies, Vince, is these numbers with respect to jobs. And if the jobs are not unreliable, we're going to be making big policy mistakes. So this is an important job. Who's running the BLS? I think there's nobody better than EJ to do it, but he's got to be confirmed right away. What are they waiting for?
It's completely outrageous. And So I went for a long time kind of thinking that government reports were just sort of backward-looking indicators and, like, who cares, right? Whether they're lying to you or whether they're telling the truth, I know what my life costs. I don't need a government report to tell me that I'm miserable or whatever. But here's to further emphasize the point you were just making, Steve Moore. The reason this data matters so much is the Federal Reserve decides what the entire interest rate for the economy is based on these numbers. So if these were – and what the Fed looks for – you and I have discussed this a million times. What the Fed looks for in order to lower rates is a weak jobs report. If the jobs report sucks, they're cutting rates. So we have two things going on, Steve. Low inflation and low jobs. Why isn't the Fed cutting rates yet?
Well, By the way, this is a problem, not just at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but all over government. I want to make sure, again, your listeners understand this. We know, for example, one of the most important data collections is the census data, the decennial census that determines how many people live where and how many congressional seats go to each state and all these things. Well, we know, Vince, that they lied on those numbers, that in fact the blue states probably got four more congressional seats than they should have because they overcounted the number of people living in New Jersey, in Illinois, in New York, and California, and they undercounted the number of people living in Texas and Florida and other red states. Now, do you think that was just a coincidence? Let me give you another example. How many people really believe that prices were only up 21% under Biden in his first term? What people came up to me all the time saying my cost of living went up 25 or 30% or 35% under Biden. So these numbers we're getting from the government are inaccurate. We need much better data collection. We need somebody who's a professional like EJ to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Your opinion, not only do you and I share the same opinion that, of course, the great E.J. Antonio should be running this agency now. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, just made that claim as well. He said, we desperately need E.J. in this job. Let's play cut 10. Here's Scott Bessent talking about how important E.J. is to get into that gig.
The Fed says they're data dependent and the data has been atrocious, then it seems like there's probably some makeup cuts in order here, or the size of this month's cut needs to be recalibrated. And sure, it could be fixed. Anything can be fixed. You just have to first, we had to establish that it was broken, which President Trump did. Now we have to go about fixing it. And it wasn't working well before, that kind of this lazy notion that they had dropped down to these low response rates, 30, 40% response rates, and they intuited the balance. Intuiting the balance is going from quantitative to qualitative. We need good empirical data, and it's not easy to get to, but you got to want to get there, and we want to get there. I think EJ is a great person to do it. I've known him for years. He's high integrity, data driven, the ruthless truth pursuer.
Will the Senate get that message, Steve Moore? Are they listening to the Treasury Secretary right now?
Vince, it's not just EJ. We have over 200 people who've been nominated to be in major positions in federal agencies throughout the government. And it is an atrocity that the Democrats haven't even provided an up or down vote for these people. Vince, how long has Trump been in office now? What's 8 months, 9 months? And we're 9 months into his presidency, and half of the, people are supposed to be running the agencies have not been confirmed. I mean, I thought the Democrats believed in good government. How can you imagine a business operating this way, Vince? Seriously. I mean, it's an outrage. So yes, why is it taking so long for these people, not just EJ, but hundreds of others who are highly qualified to be in these positions?
Let me, I totally agree with you. And by the way, we get some good indicators this week that the Senate under John Thune is allegedly about to go nuclear and start to get a bunch of these nominees through. And the goal, they say, is to clear the entire nominee backlog by mid-October. That would be good news if they can accelerate that quickly. I'll believe it when I see it. But let me ask you just about the general state of the economy, Steve Moore, right now under Trump. So, yes, we've been served a lot of lies by the government bookkeepers in the past. But how do you score the current state of our economy under President Trump in these first 8 months? How are things looking?
Great. Really good. I mean, I'm super bullish. Now, look, the jobs report that came out on Monday, it was probably, last week, it was probably flawed, but it is true that there's a little softening in the jobs market. And, you see that when you talk to employers. Part of that, I think, is some of the turmoil from the terrorists. Part of it is other factors. But Trump is he's pushing all the right buttons right now. We got the big, beautiful tax bill done, which is enormously beneficial. We're saving as much as $1 trillion a year on deregulation under Trump. We have, I don't know if you're aware of this, Vince, because the national media doesn't report it. We have gas prices that are going down below $3 a gallon nationally. That's down from $5 a gallon under Biden. I could go on and on with it. The stock market has been on a tear because investors love what Trump is doing in terms of making American companies more valuable. So I think now is a great time to be American. I think we're going to see a lot of jobs. I think we're going to see a lot of growth,
Yes.
and that's critical to bringing down the deficit. So this is look. It's very simple, Vince. This is a pro-business president, and it makes a big difference because Biden hated business.
Yeah, that's for sure. So on the gas prices, I just saw a headline this morning that gasoline is set to hit the lowest spend as a percentage of an American's budget that it's been in 20 years. 20 years. It's the smallest percentage of Americans' budgets being spent on gasoline. That's a great piece of news. Since 2005, that's according to the Energy Department, President Trump's Energy Department. The other,
by the way, Vince, can I make one point about?
Yeah.
Can I make one point about that? Last weekend I was in California. I was in Los Angeles, and there in California, I took a picture of the sign. They're still paying $5.50 a gallon in California, so they're paying like twice the national price because of their crazy policies and under Gavin Newsom in California.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Okay, and then given all of this economic data that we now have, the understanding what's really going on. Do you think the Fed's going to cut rates imminently? And if they do, that does seem like the economy is going to explode upward as a result.
Yeah, I do think they'll cut rates. I think they should cut rates. But I also think, Vince, that so many people on Wall Street, too many people in Washington obsess about Fed interest rate cuts. And would it help the economy? A little bit, no question. But it's not as if, Jerome Powell is a wizard behind the curtain who can just push a button and the economy is going to do better. No, the economy is going to do better because we're lowering costs, we're cutting people's taxes, businesses' taxes, and we've got inflation under control. Those are the things that are going to really supercharge the economy. But by the way, Jerome Powell has to go.
He's got to go. And if he doesn't leave now, he's leaving in May. That's the end of his term, and then we'll see what happens after that. All right, Steve Moore, thank you. Busy man on his way in an Uber, but talking to us here on this show. Thank you, sir. Good to talk to you as always.
Thank you, Vince.
All right, there's Steve Moore, founder of Unleash Prosperity, Heritage Foundation guy, Wall Street Journal guy. He does it all. Our thanks to Steve. Always been a great economic commentator, and always appreciated his friendship. So look, we talked a lot about this. That economic data revision, it's funny, the media are trying to basically use Biden's failures in the economy as a way to attack Trump. They're like, look how crappy things are. Yeah, it's because of what Trump inherited. And in fact, over the weekend, this is Cut 9, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was on with NBC's Kristen Welker. And Kristen Welker was trying to say, oh, man, you guys are really failing. And Scott Bessent's going, no, baby. When this economic revision comes out later this week, you are going to see what a terrible state Joe Biden left us with. Take a look here.
We're going to get the revisions for last year next week, and there may be as big as an 800,000 job downward revision. Again, this would be the second downward revision, so I'm not sure what these people who collect the data have been doing. It's good. We need good data. Secondly, what we are seeing is the jobs that are being created are going to either native-born or legal Americans. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration, they went to illegal aliens.
Yeah, which Kristen Welker hated. She hated that detail. Don't say that. Well, I bet that's a subject of some dispute. You're telling that to the Treasury Secretary, who's like, look, here's the upside. The jobs that are being created in the United States for the first time, this didn't happen during the Biden administration. You know where all the jobs gains went during the Biden administration, to the extent that any of them were real? They went to foreigners. Americans, native-born Americans, were losing their shirts under Joe Biden. They were losing their jobs. We went up to well over $1 trillion in credit card debt. Do you know how often that happens in American history? Never. That had never happened before. We'd never been in this much credit card debt as a country. Thanks to Biden, we were. So you've got now an administration that's very obsessed with getting native-born Americans jobs, not foreigners. The size of the government is shrinking. We've been getting routine reports on government jobs going down, native-born American jobs going up. This is the key. That is the key piece of data that we need to continue to pursue here. Good for Scott Bessent. And he points out, like, look, one of the most important things we need is accurate data. And we get that if E.J. Antoni is running the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So come on, Senate. Snap to it, baby. Get it done. Get it done immediately. We could desperately use it. Big time. All right, we've got a couple of other things going on in the world that I want to share with you before we check out today on this edition of Vince. Yesterday, the President of the United States signed an executive order to rein in all of those crazy, misleading pharmaceutical ads. Here's an image from Margot Martin at the White House. President Trump signing the most significant action in a generation to rein in misleading pharmaceutical ads. And in this image, you can see there's RFK Jr. is there with the President of the United States next to Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya signing this executive order. That's great news. We've had way too many of these misleading pharmaceutical ads going on. You ever think to yourself, like, why do the pharma ads run on the commercials? I can't write a prescription. I can't watch an advertisement and go, oh, I should prescribe that to myself. No, I've got to go see a doctor. A doctor has to prescribe it to me. Why don't you just advertise in their literature? Why do I have to see all of these ads? What does this have to do with anything related to my life? And yet a lot of that's going on. And the effect of that, of course, has been these giant media companies have been getting all of this money from pharmaceutical companies. So as a result, they don't scrutinize pharmaceutical companies. They don't spend any time second-guessing an mRNA vaccine, for instance, or looking closely at the effects of the COVID vaccines, the side effects, the myocarditis, spending any time whatsoever talking about that issue. And so the president yesterday signing an executive order going, no, we need some more truth in advertising here. If these ads are going to run, they have to be clean. You got to give people more information. So not little things, but big things here. But there's some little elements that you may remember. You remember back in the day that you'd watch a pharmaceutical ad, at the end of the ad there'd be small print, there'd be 1 million seconds of just the people who take this drug could succumb to pneumonia and measles and mumps and all sorts of problems and death and bloating and everything. What's happened is in a lot of this advertising, they've given up on that fine print about side effects, and they just tell you, go check out the website, and then you can find out about the side effects there. And the president's saying, that's not good enough. The administration is eliminating what they're calling a loophole from 1997, which allowed drug ads to simply refer consumers to a different source. Go check out the website, and you can find out more there. And they're saying, no. You have to tell people the truth if you're going to be advertising like this. The Trump administration is also sending out around 100 cease and desist enforcement letters and thousands of warning letters alerting companies that the government plans to enforce all of the regulations around pharmaceutical advertising. They plan to scrutinize social media companies as well as influencers paid to promote pharmaceutical products without proper disclosures or without following the rules that drug makers must follow, according to Trump administration officials. This is all spurred on by the Make America Healthy Again movement, the MAHA movement. And I want you to pay attention to something that's going on behind the scenes that's beginning to spill out into the public. The media are trying to sow division between RFK Jr. and President Trump right now. I've seen headlines like, oh, RFK Jr. is being kept on a leash. I saw one like that today. And that this idea that there's big infighting going on at the White House. Now, we've talked to people who know exactly what's going on, and the characterizations outside the White House bear no resemblance to what's actually going on inside the White House. Now, that will not surprise you. The media are routinely involved in dishonest psyops designed to suggest that there is division where there isn't any, or to sow division. But the president and RFK Jr. have been very closely aligned in both speaking to voters and working on making America healthy. Are there going to be disagreements on what these guys present? Sure. On what strategy to take? Absolutely, there will be. But the fact is, the president realized and knows that the MAHA movement is very important to this country, brought RFK Jr. on intentionally in order to lead HHS of all agencies. That's a big job. He's leading HHS. And the two men have been working very well together. And there they are yesterday, posing together as the president of the United States signs a very important executive order to try and rein in out of control and dishonest pharmaceutical marketing. So I'll take it. I'll take it. But yeah, no, they're sowing division again. Just be on guard for that. That is clearly what's going on here. One other element today that I am just absolutely cracking up over, I think it's the funniest thing ever. Kamala Harris's book is apparently coming out at the end of this month. It's called 107 Days. 107 Days. And you know what that means, right? When you call the book 107 Days, that's another way of saying you're making an excuse for losing the presidential campaign. It was only 107 days. I didn't have time to run. It was 107. Lady, if we let you run longer, you would have lost by a bigger margin. Nobody wanted what you were selling. The more exposure the American people had to you, the more trounced you were going to be in the presidential election. So spare us. Yeah, get out of here. The president gesturing out the door. Get out of here, Kamala, with that garbage. Yeah, it's 107 days. That was enough. Yeah, no, you lost because you sucked. And you lost because President Trump's first administration was so much better than the one you were involved with President Autopen. That's why. It's very simple why you lost. But the best part is the excerpts are coming out. And today on the big national radio show from 12 to 3 Eastern time, The Vince Show, you can check it out, thevinceshow.com. I've got your local listings there. I'll be going through some of these excerpts. And holy cow, let me just give you a preview of some of the basic things that Kamala says. One of them is she's furious that Joe didn't talk more about her when he was giving a speech announcing that he had dropped out of the race. She's upset that the speech wasn't more about Kamala. It should have been more about her. Yeah, that was a big problem. Here's another thing. She's now admitting that it was completely insane for Joe Biden to still be running as late as he was. She said it was, quote, recklessness that they were doing this. I love this, by the way. I love where this is going. Also, she made excuses for Joe. She claimed that the international trip that he took literally 2 weeks prior to the debate is why he sucked at the debate. Oh, he had jet lag from 2 weeks ago? In what world do you still have jet lag 2 weeks later? He doesn't have jet lag. He has brain lag. The brain is not catching up. It's not working. Kamala made excuses for that. She complained that nobody at the White House supported her, that everybody treated her like crap, that nobody stood up for her when people were rightly accusing her of being things like a DEI hire or saying that she was a total loser and that she was incapable of communicating, that her voice is grating and annoying, that she was the border czar. We're saying all these things, and she was mad that the White House didn't stand up for her. They didn't stand up for me. Hilarious. She made excuses for the high turnover in her office because everybody kept quitting. They kept bringing people in to work in the office. They're miserable because she's a shitty boss who doesn't actually read any of the prep that these guys are putting in. Everybody's working their asses off to try and make this woman appear halfway coherent. None of them are seeing any of the fruits of their labor because she's incapable of stringing a sentence together and she doesn't have dementia as an excuse. And so they keep quitting the office. And she claims that, well, it's a tough job and not everybody can do it. They learned the hard way that only the very best can work in the White House. Unreal. And then she complained about being the border czar. She's mad that she was given that role. And then she said, and I wasn't even the border czar anyway. Sure you weren't, sweetheart. You destroyed our country's sovereignty. So you own that right there with Joe Biden. And let me just offer you one additional piece of information that you may not have derived given you wrote a book on the subject. You will never be president of the United States. And thank God. And thank God. Can you even imagine what kind of world we live in right now? 107 days. She may as well just have put the title of the book, It's Not My Fault. Making excuses, not a good look. Not a good look at all. All right, the radio show's coming up today, thevinceshow.com for local listings. You can watch us, rumble.com/Vince. That's how you can find the radio show each day. We do that live on camera. And I'm back with you tomorrow with another big show right here on this podcast. You're the best audience anywhere. Thank you very much. Be sure to subscribe to it, by the way. If you are just joining us for the first time or you do it intermittently and you're not yet subscribed, do subscribe and very gently tap the like button on Rumble, rumble.com/Vince. Don't smash it. Very gently caress the like button like you love this show. I would appreciate that. It goes a long way. Thank you. Good to talk to you today. All right, coming up next on Rumble, Steven Crowder does his thing. That's ahead.